Alright, so to solve equations, we're going to have to figure out the bad x's, and those are going to be the x's that make us divide by 0. So we can't divide by 0. So down here in this first problem, first of all, I see it's a subtract problem, so I'm going to change that to add the opposite, distribute that negative on through. And now I'm going to find my bad x's. So I have to watch out for the bottoms of my fraction. They can't turn out to equal 0. Since a 3 can never equal 0, I can skip that, and I can just find out what would make x minus 1 equal 0. Well, if I add 1 to both sides, I know my bad x is positive 1. There's just a 1 underneath the 4, so that also can't be 0. Alright, so next, common denominator. The first denominator is already factored, it's just a 3, so my common denominator needs a 3. The middle denominator is already factored. It's an x minus 1, so I need one of those also. And then multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything, so I don't need to put multiplying by 1 in there. Next, multiply each fraction by the part or part that it's missing. So I need to multiply the first fraction by x minus 1. I need to multiply the middle fraction by the 3. And I need to multiply the last fraction by both the 3 and the x minus 1. So far you may be asking yourself, why is this any different than adding and subtracting? Well, here's where the difference happens. At this moment, the denominators are all the same, and so they're boring. I want to just work with the numerator from now on and make the equations equal from there. So I'm going to do 2 times x minus 1, and I'm going to get 2x minus 2. I want to put negative 2x minus 1 in parentheses so I can easily multiply by 3. So I'll get negative 6x minus 3. And on the other side of the equal sign, I'm going to do 4 times 3 together, get 12. So I pick 2 factors and multiply. And then I'm going to multiply that by my answer. So I'm going to take that 12 I got and distribute it to x minus 1. So I get 12x minus 12. That equation is what I solve to get the answer to my problem. So I have a lot of like terms to combine. I have to put the 2x minus 6x and get negative 4x. And my negative 2 and negative 3 make negative 5. Still equals 12x minus 12. To put the x's together, I will need to, let's see, I could either add the 4x like I'm going to do, or I could have subtracted the 12x. So negative 5x equals 16x minus 12. So now keep on doing. Add 12, which gives us 7. 7 equals 16x. So divide by 16. So x equals, my stylus is failing on me, 7 over 16. So before you leave that problem, you make sure you check out the bad x's. Make sure that your answer you just got is not the bad x. 7/16 is not a 1, so 7/16 is an okay answer. Let's try one more. Alright, so another subtracting problem. So I'm going to change that to add the opposite right away. This time, I need to factor the first denominator before I can find my common denominator and before I can find my bad x's. That's the difference of squares, so x plus 3 and x minus 3. And then the second two fractions are already factored. So my bad x's would be either x plus 3 cannot equal 0, so if I subtract 3, I'll realize it can't be negative 3. Or x minus 3 can't be 0, or else I would divide by 0. So if I add 3 to both sides, I get that x can't be positive 3. So we'll save that for the end. Alright, the common denominator. I need to have an x plus 3. I need to have an x minus 3. And that is it. Well, if I could get that to right. There we go. So the first fraction, multiply what we're missing here. The first fraction already has both pieces. It's not missing anything. The middle fraction does not have the x subtract 3. And the third fraction does not have the x plus 3. Alright, so now that the denominators are all the same, that's boring. We just solved the numerator. So the first fraction is an x. And then remember we had just changed that to -7 because it was a subtract problem. So we're going to distribute the -7, so we get -7x plus 21. Then there's our equal sign. And we have to distribute the 2 as well. So 2x plus 6. So if I put these like terms here together, I have -6x plus 21 equals 2x plus 6. Again, I have x's on both sides. You won't always have x's on both sides, but a lot of times you do. I will add 6x so that these cancel off. I'll have 21 equals 8x plus 6. And now I need to work backwards. So I subtract 6. 15 equals 8x. And then let's divide by 8 to get x alone. So x equals 15 divided by 8, which is 1 point something. It is 16 divided by 8 would be 2, so it's a little bit smaller than 2. Remember, before you leave the problem, compare to the bad x's. The bad x's were 3. This is not a 3. The bad x's were -3. This is not a -3. So these are okay. All right, if you have extra questions, let me know.